This is why I think every man should learn how to fight. Because fighting is the act of violence. Why should we then learn how to fight if the world is actually pushing more and more for peace? I'll tell you why. It's because violence is the base for peace. Aside from the benefits of fighting, like blood recirculation, like being more confident in yourself, like having a better physique, like, you know, not getting tired from running up the stairs, aside from those very, very big major benefits, actually. Violence is actually very important for society to function and for you to function as a whole.
Yeah, but won't I become a monster?
It's quite the opposite, actually. This is what George Peterson said about this topic.
Those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. And that's another thing I've been telling. Yeah, no kidding. That's a lot different,
big
man.
difference.
That's a big difference. It's so great. And so, like, one of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think, is that you should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no, wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
You see, knowing how to fight doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be wicked, that you have to be mean. No. It just means that you can be capable of violence. You can be a monster inside of the ring, but outside you can be a totally great guy. Personally, I know a lot of people who, inside of the ring, they are very, very, very hard. Pause. Not that hard. They are very merciless inside of the ring. But outside, they're the friendliest people that you'll ever meet. These guys look like nerds outside of the ring. But when you're fighting them, you don't feel it. You feel the enormous pressure. And they all get the praise of being strong. Because strength is always respected, always praised. The reason why strength is respected is because of how they got their strength. You know, I didn't really know that I wanted to be a kickboxer. I didn't know that I wanted to be an athlete. In fact, I made fun of athletes a lot back then because, like, at that time, it was so out of my reach. I didn't really think that I can be an athlete. But after session, after session, after session, well, it's become a part of my identity to be athletic, to be able to fight. It became harder and harder and harder and harder and harder until it became better and better and better and better. It's like called the curve of something. At first, you see the tip, you think you see the tip, and then you're trying to get better, and then you drop, you realize that, well, I have to get a lot of things right for this shit to be good, for me to be good. And then it's like learning a skill. Every skill is like that, wherein it's at the start, it feels good, at the middle, it drops, and then what if you get past this middle line, you can go up. That's what happened to me in piano. That's what happened to me in guitar. That's what's happened to me in kickboxing. But it's very hard. That's why it's respected. That's why athletes get paid as much as they do. Not just the athletes, but athletes in general. Because it's hard, right? And that is also why I'm respected. Because every time I've been beat up, I've been beat the fuck up, knocked out, I'm talking headache after, I'm talking not remembering what happened after. I got up, I trained again. That's why people respect me. That's why I respect myself. Because this body that I have signifies violence, signifies that I can fight. And isn't this the backbone of our society, of every single society in the world? Because peace is the cherry on top, violence is the crumb on the bottom. Every single society that you can think of has used violence and is using violence, right? We let them govern because they can use violence. You see, if you speed, right, and then you don't pay the ticket, and then after that you don't pay, and then you continue on not paying and you stay in the country, your house will get raided. And then how will they raid your house? Well, they'll use violence of the people. I've got a question for you. How do you know that cows are made to be eaten? Well, if you're in from a different country like India, you don't know. Because in India, cows aren't made to be eaten. They're religious, right? There's a there's something religious about cows that Indians don't want to eat them. However, in other parts of the country, if you're born in, let's say, Philippines, you eat a burger. You just eat a burger. How do you know if a cow is, you know, should be should be like worshipped and a cow should be eaten? How do you know that? How do you know that? Well, that is you can't. There's no morality in here, right? The ethics are very different from you. The ethics, because this guy has been raised with this culture, with this set of beliefs, with this set of experiences, with this gene, and then you have been raised with this experience, with this gene, with this culture, with this religious belief. And so, who's right? Who's right in that scenario? Who's right? You can't know unless they fight. And whoever wins is the one that's in the right. Okay? And you see this a lot in wars. I know it's nonsensical to say, but this is my example. In World War II, if the Nazi power were to win, do you not think that they would try and indoctrinate the younger generation into thinking that the Nazi people were the good guys? Right. That's what they will be doing if they won. Because when you win a war with violence, well, you don't just win a war, you win the beliefs of the people that you have conquered. And you inject your beliefs in them. Logic is out of the window, right? When you're facing this morality and ethics and all of that. Because 1 plus 1, I can say that is equals to 2. You can say that 1 plus 1 is equals to 3. Who's right? Who's right is if I beat you up, it's 2. If you beat me up, it's 3. That's it. And that is why you should learn how to fight. Not just to be fit, not just to box, not just to have all of these health benefits, but when push comes to shove, right? You can use violence to protect and inject your beliefs onto different people. And also, if you're a weak man and you don't know how to fight, you'll just be conquered by the strong. And even if you're right, if you're weak, you're wrong. I'll say this again, just to let it hit a point. If you're weak, you are wrong. It might be nonsensical to say, but it is the truth, right? That's about it.